Alright, so far it took me about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes just to fiddle around with the settings and everything, getting used to the software and whatnot. I mean, personally, so far I have not experienced any sort of glitchiness with the software at the moment right now. So far the driving experience has been good. I'm not again, I've only been driving for the last 5 minutes, getting used to the vehicle size, getting my brain wired as far as my boundaries. It's just like any vehicle you're gonna be renting, you just have to get used to your boundaries and so forth. So I'm taking it easy on this vehicle. This is not a rental car, it's company. I'm actually renting this vehicle. I'm actually renting this through Turo, so this is somebody's own personal car, which I'm sure he's using it as a side hustle, but still, this is somebody else's property, and I want to be able to take good care of this and be extra careful as well, because if I'm renting out my Mach-E on Turo, I want my car to be treated just right. So anyways, we're gonna continue on driving, and then I'll give you some more initial thoughts so far.
The Vinfast VF8, not as bad as most people think, but don't get me wrong, it's still a bad car, but let me explain. Welcome to the review of the Vinfast VF8. My name is Merch Batista, and this is Charging the Road. Now, in case you've never heard of the Vinfast, who are and what is the Vinfast? Vinfast is actually based out of Vietnam. They've been making vehicles since 2017. This is their very first entry into the US market, or actually really the North American market, if you're counting Canada. And this has been touted as as probably the worst reviewed EV. The way I kind of see it is this is probably like the Postal Boys, similar to the Atari AT game for the Atari 2600, reviewed as the worst video game of all time. Let me tell you this right now, ET for the Atari 2600 is not the worst video game ever released. There's plenty of other games I can listen to. But to say that the Vinfast VF8 is actually the worst EV out there, it really isn't. It's not as bad as I originally thought it is. But don't get me wrong, a lot of the basic fundamentals are not working or sufficiently or as simple as it should be. But we're gonna go over the review, we're gonna go over the exterior, the interior, give you a little tour, and the insides and out, and of course give you my overall thoughts review of the Vinfast VF8. Weighing at 5,700 pounds, this VF8 Plus trim comes in at 402 horsepower with 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. This packs in an 87 kilowatt hour, which brings in roughly around 235 miles on a single charge. Now, depending on the city driving or the highway driving, those numbers will vary. The starting price of the Vinfast starts at $46,000 for the base VF8. But the attraction behind the Vinfast is the leasing option, which you can lease it for $249 a month for 36 months, 0 down to begin, and comes with an outstanding 10-year, 125,000 miles warranty, bumper to bumper, and powertrain. I think that's actually quite the winner right there, but we'll see over time. Now we're gonna have a quick tour of the exterior. Now to kind of note this, the design of the vehicle was actually designed by an Italian designer, Pininfarina. Hopefully I pronounced that right, Pininfarina. And yeah, I mean, honestly, the design overall, it doesn't look that bad. It's actually not really attractive, but it's also not boring at all. It actually looks pretty decent, to be honest. So the first thing you're going to see is the front end of the Vinfast VF8. The first thing you'll notice is that the center has their Vinfast V logo, which I think looks pretty good. I will say though, the front end looks a little bit more similar to the Fiat 500 front face. That's just in my opinion. But here you have your LED headlights right here, and of course right here this will be your turning signal. So if we go to the other side here, same thing. You have the turning signal here, and you're going to have your headlamps here. Now, if you can look at it very carefully, There's this little pocket here. You can see on the other side, that's just to help tunnel the air for a little bit more dynamic driving. And of course, down here, you have your vents to help cool the battery. You know, and the black design doesn't look too busy, but if you look at the VF8 in a different color, say like green or even like the orange, it does tend to look a little busy because they added this accent right here. You'll notice that the accent right here, same thing here. But honestly, in black, it doesn't look that bad. It looks pretty attractive. The side profile reminds me of the 2023 Ford Escape. I know I have quite the imagination. The VF8 Plus does come with a 19-inch wheels. It gives a nice little attractive look, but at the same time, it's a little more aero, which I like it. Now the charging port here, the same location as the Mustang Mach-E. Now I will say this though, because I can't open this because the vehicle itself is locked. But if I unlock it, I can open the charge port, which is great. And again, this is the CCS charging port. So far, there's no announcements from Vinfast about integrating for the NACS. But here you have the V logo. This actually lights up according to what the charging activity is happening. So obviously it's flashing in red, it means something is wrong. Orange means is connected. And then the green flashing means it's charging. And the solid green means it's done charging. This, I don't mind. It does get a little flimsy, so just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna close this, and it looks like the car is already locked up. Maybe not. But once I lock it up, okay. Well, that's a software glitch. Add that to the software glitch. So again, the side profile doesn't seem too bad, but let's come around to the taillights here. Now, the taillights, I do enjoy, I do like it. Some people were saying that, you know, the Vinfast kind of copied the idea from the Mustang with their 4 vertical bars. I'm trying to remember where else I've seen that before, but according to my imagination, the back tail lights, if I actually unlock here, you'll notice that the lights flash, which is great. In my opinion, the back tail lights reminds me of the figure of the Volkswagen ID4. I know it sounds crazy. My imagination is wild, right? In the back side of the Vinfast, you have your prominent logo once again, and the letters going across Vinfast. And of course, this shows the model of the Vinfast, which is the VF8. And if we open the trunk by double clicking on the remote right here. Okay. So here's the cargo space, and it is 13.2 cubic feet of space. But if you fold down the seats by taking this lever right here and actually yank it up, this is a two-hand operation, which kind of sucks. I wish there was like a simple button to do it. But anyways, it almost folds flat down, but then once you fold, oh my God, this is also heavy to the pushback. Keep that in mind, folks. Ugh. Jesus. Not the greatest design, folks. It's very simple here. You have the button to close the gate. This is an automatic gate, by the way, for VF8 Plus. The VF8 base doesn't have automatic lift gate. And then here's your lights. By the way, I just wanted to note this exposed circuit board, which I think is pretty cheap. Now, as far as the front is concerned, to how to open it, I think a long time ago you were able to just press it right there and the front will actually open via software. But at the current moment right now, the only way to open the front is underneath here, the same way as the Mach-E. So just pull this lever twice, maybe 3 times, you never know. And let's have a look at the front actually, because I forgot to show you guys what the front looks like. So we lift that up, and this is the space that we have, the cargo space we have for the front. So, I mean, this is actually quite decent space, not the most deepest, but it is serviceable. Like, I think, like, this is kind of ridiculous. So this is good compartment, like, for example, if you want to keep your portable charger here, your cleaning supplies for your car, and vice versa. Behind here is your fuse box, and then underneath there is where you will have your connectors for your 12 volt. And that's about it. And of course, your washer fluid right there. Now that you had a quick look at the exterior, now let's have a look at the interior. Now check this out though. This is the one thing that kind of bothered me. So I'm gonna lock the car real quick, right? So here's the, by the way, I wanna show you guys the key fob. So this is the key fob that you receive. Normally, when you hold a key fob, the ring is gonna be holding on your palm, but it feels like this is upside down. I'm not sure if it's really a poor design or this is a design of their choice, but if you hold it like this, it doesn't feel that bad. But yeah, here's the V logo, and then you have 4 buttons. You have the alarm button, which is this. I'm not gonna freak people out. This is your unlock button. This is your lock button. And this is your tailgate button. So now that the vehicle is locked, there's 2 ways of getting in. 1, you unlock it with your key fob, or 2, you unlock it with this little button here. Now, normally it takes about a quick half a second to unlock the car if you were to do that method, but with this, it takes about 1.5 seconds. Watch, pressing now. Then you go in. Now check out the interior of the Vinfast VF8. Again, you have your gorgeous glass roof at the top right there, greeted by a very nice interior color. Now there is color choices you can get for your Vinfast VF8 Plus. This particular one I'm renting from Turo has like a dark grayish blue accent. I do enjoy the color. I do enjoy the styling behind it. Now the seats are actually a little left to be desired. Now you may think this looks comfortable, right? It looks cushy, right? It really isn't, to be honest. Like I'm sitting here, there's a little flat, and when I first got into the Vinfast, the lumbar was so darn hard, it was really hurting my back. I put the setting back to as low as possible, and I'm still feeling the lumbar. Now I'm gonna close this and just hear this thunk. The thunk actually sounds pretty nice. Now we're gonna actually going to check out the back seat here. Now I'm gonna step into the back seat because the back seat is actually gonna be quite important. Okay, it's actually a lot less comfortable in the back, but there is a couple cool things that can be said for the back seat. First of all, I'm 5'10", and so I actually have quite a bit of headroom in the back. Yeah, again, 5'10". I'm gonna take off my hat. Here's my head. This amount of room I have left, which is cool. Now, for somebody who's like 6'5" and above, like like Chevy Chase, he's a big walking tree. But to be honest, like the back seat here, the seats are a little too flat. There's not really much of a groove here. In fact, my lumbar support just feels really awkward. Again, the seats look nice. They look nice, but they're not comfortable. Now, if I shut the door right here, same thing, the awkwardness from the door handle, just a little awkward to kind of pull the door closed. Because it feels like there's too much attention to the left side, and so you're trying to pull all this force to kind of swing this closed, which I really don't like. You get this really nice view if you have the glass roof open. However, I will mention this though, if the sun is hitting you, it's really, really bright. There isn't that much tint on the glass roof like the Mach-E. So for example, Patrick of the Mach-E vlog had a chance to ride the Vinfast VF8 in the back seat, and he was complaining that the sun was just like shining right on him. This is definitely a lot brighter than the Mach-E, that's for sure. So the solution for it is obviously to close close the glass roof with the shade, which is but again, you're greeted with this nice view from the back seat. Also, if you're gonna have somebody sitting in the middle, you're gonna have a tough time. First of all, this is not comfortable at all. Second, there is the transmission tunnel. I don't know why the transmission tunnel still exists in this VF8 because it's all electric, but the couple of nice features about the back seat is, one, I'm gonna open this door. Helicopters, because we're in San Diego. One, there is a latch right here. So if you pull it, you can actually recline back or recline forward. However, it is a little tough to try to recline forward. So the design idea is there. The engineering part of it needs a little bit of work. But the second cool part about this is that, again, mentioning that you have 2 USB-A's and 1 USB-C touted at 90 watts. So again, if you have a fast charging phone like my phone, the Galaxy S23 Ultra, you can charge that baby in about 45 minutes or something like that, which is pretty cool. And of course, we're going to talk about the center arm rest. We're going to pull this forward, and then you have your cup holders. Not bad. It's a little flimsy, but you know what? It'll do.
All right, so the one thing to start the vehicle, obviously you want to unlock the car, which takes about a second and a half. And then to start the car, you just press on the brake pedal there. Hold it down, and now all the gauges come out. Along with lots of noises. But then how do you actually turn off the car? There's actually no button on the screen. There's no start and stop button anywhere. Well, the only way you can actually turn off the car is that you exit the vehicle, and then you lock it. And then you hear this little chime. You couldn't hear it, but there's a little chime that goes doo-doo-doo, and then you walk away, which is ridiculous.
All right, so now that we're in the VinFast, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the design here. So you obviously have your vents right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course an additional vent right here for your fog in case this gets fogged up when it's cold outside. Now the materials around the cockpit, as I like to call it, the cockpit, the front seat, really the front row, it's not bad because, like, you know, you may look at this real quick. This may look like cheap plastic and whatnot, but honestly, this isn't cheap plastic. It's actually, you see that little texture? Like, it's a little soft. It's not too hard. It's not too soft. It's got a good material going here. This right here, it's a little bit of a cheap plastic guy here. And of course, this is also cheap plastic as well. The door handles. The door handle here is, I feel like that's where they really cut the money right there. But I say the worst part about the door right here is this door handle. You'll hear it as I'm holding it. Grabbing it, here, you just hear that plastic. Just seems a bit awkward. And of course you have your child lock right here, then you have your window controls right here. But where's the lock button? The lock button is actually in the middle right here. Seems like an awkward choice, but you know what? Seems serviceable right there. All right, so the steering wheel. My impression of the steering wheel is not bad. I think I actually do enjoy the steering wheel. The steering wheel though, initially it does feel pretty light when you start turning at a slow speed, but as you're going faster speeds, it starts to get a little I want to say rough, but a little harder to turn and whatnot. Some people say this looks like a video game joystick. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Again, I play video games, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. Maybe it looks like a racing wheel for a video game, if that's what they're referring to, but I don't know. So back to the steering wheel. So you have your basic controls. I'm happy these are physical buttons, by the way, both on the left side and the right side. The left side, you have your up, down, left, right, but this can also be used as a volume button right here. This is to make a call. That is to use your voice activated stuff. SRC, I forgot what the hell that is, but you also have your horn. That nice little horn. And then you have your right controls. Your right controls is actually your cruise control. So this actually starts your cruise control at the current speed limit that is posted on the street, to be if you can believe that. This will also start your cruise control, adaptive cruise control. Now in this control here, you'll see this says gap. The gap control the distance between you and the vehicle in front of it, which is great. And of course you have your typical speed, high up or high low, and then resets and set your cruise control. And check this out. You have your turning stock left and right. I'll get to that in a second about that. And then of course you have your windshield wiper stocks right there. Now I want to talk briefly about the turning signal stock, because when you're trying to make a turning signal, normally this will stay up, right? This doesn't. So you actually make a left turn and you got to push it all the way up. Sometimes it's too hard. You got to push it really high up to make that turning signal. Just to switch lanes, you just kind of tap it up a little bit. Vice versa if you go down, and then vice versa if you want to make a turning signal, if you want to turn, You got to push it all the way down. For the turning signals, for me, that's actually really troublesome. In fact, one of the glitches I'm actually running into, and this will be all mentioned all together later in the video, you know, lately, when I'm trying to make a left signal to switch lanes, it doesn't activate right away. Actually, it doesn't even activate until I like tap it twice or 3 times, then it actually do it. But sometimes that doesn't even go that far. I actually have to push it all the way down to make that initial turning signal to activate. So that's another glitch that I think that needs to be addressed just to get a software update from Vinfast. All right, so in the center console here, now this is something you're not going to be able to miss. Your massive 15.6-inch screen, landscape mode, exactly from the Tesla, pretty much taking the page out of the Tesla playbook. But the UI here is definitely interesting. We're going to be going over the UI here and then show you exactly what everything, how it functions and whatnot. And then of course you have your center console. Now your center console doesn't have a lot of room. In fact, there isn't even any space underneath here. In fact, the transmission tunnel is still there, which I have no idea why. But what's here is you have your wireless charging pad, which is not bad. Underneath here, you have your USB-A for both data and charging. Now, you're wondering if there's a USB-C. There actually is. If you look back here, there is 2 USB-As and 1 USB-C charging port, and it's actually rated at 90 watt. And then here you have your gear controls. You have your parking brakes, you have your reverse, your neutral, and your drive. Now, I have to complain about this because you have to like really push it in. You have to really push it in to make a reverse, to make a neutral, make a drive, and to park, which I think is really a pain in the ass. And then going over to your passenger side, you have enough space. In fact, you have your glove compartment, very physical. And there's some sway in here. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but it's a little bit of a sway. It's soft in here, which is nice. Unnecessarily, but you know, at least that's a nice touch. Cheap plastic underneath here, but who the hell cares? Also, one awkward thing, you're wondering where is the parking brakes? It's actually right underneath here. I actually don't like the positioning. In fact, the way this vehicle operates when it comes to parking brakes, it automatically does it for you. Some people don't actually use it, like my dad, but I use it all the time, to be honest. And sometimes it'll disengage for you if you go to drive. Sometimes it doesn't. So that's just another software thing that maybe Vinfast may need to look into. But anyways, the rest of your center console, you have 2 cup holders right here, and then you have your storage bin, which by the way, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. And also what's missing is a cigarette lighter, so I can't be using my charger. There's no cigarette lighter. When I refer to the cigarette lighter, we're talking about the 12 volt, the 12 volt outlet. And going up here, you have your typical mirror, your visor, and then you have your rearview mirror, and then you have your 2 really cheap reading lamps. And guess what's missing? There is no place to put your sunglasses. There's no sunglasses compartment, but there is an SOS button right there. Okay, so now you are greeted by the main screen here. So you can actually set up, so the owner of the vehicle will set up their own profile, but then they're only able to give me as a guest profile. So here's my guest profile. So there's going to be some things I might be limited to do. But let's go over to UI here. So the first thing here on the very top left, you're going to see your battery percentage. If you actually click on it, if you actually press on it, it takes you all the way to the battery information. So you can actually see we got 42% stated charge, even though it says battery. Expected range of 112 miles. And this is kind of nice actually. The temperature of the battery itself is at 78.8 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, that's how much battery you actually have underneath there, which is kind of cool. And then what is this button here? Oh yeah, cool. So here's all the settings you can actually do the charging for your battery. Again, I'm limited for changing stuff and whatnot because my profile is set to guest. But if you were to fiddle this around, you can actually set your charging target to like either 80, 90, or 100%. Charge current limits. You can actually limit the current of the delivery of the battery. And of course, there's the battery level reminder. So basically it's at to 20%. So once it reaches to 20%, I'll get a reminder about a low battery. Now, if we look over here on the left-hand screen, this is going to be like your main focus right here as you're driving. So here you're going to see your odometer, not your odometer. Actually, this is your odometer, so which is cool. If you click on the odometer right there, it takes you to the trips and the odometer. So you can actually just click here for just for your odometer display, and you can also have 2 trips. A and B. Trip auto, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but anyways, let's go back here. So I'm actually set to trip A because again, I'm renting this from Turo, and so I have a 1,500 mile limit, so I'm just keeping an eye on it, make sure I don't go over, otherwise I have to pay extra for it. So on the left, so again, you have the display of the vehicle here, which is actually pretty cool, but here you can actually click to unlock the charging port, and then here you can actually click to open up the trunk in the back.
So real quick, just to kind of add to this, so what's really cool here about, you know, having the VinFast image right here, so obviously, you know, you can unlock the charge door from here. You can also pop the trunk open. I believe you can open the front here. I'm not going to try it actually, but what you could also do is swipe to the left. This will show you the indicator of any passenger that you have, or even if it's just a driver like myself, if you're all wearing seatbelts. And then if you swipe once more, this will show you your PSI on all your tires, which is actually pretty cool. Not only give you the PSI, it also gives you the temperature as well. Look at that, 77 degrees Fahrenheit on my front driver's side tire. How hilarious is that? And then 73 in the back rear.
Now you have these switches right here. You have the lights. This is actually your light control. So if you want to keep it to auto, you could, or just continuously have it on, parking, or just turn it off altogether. And look, this also has a fog lamp. So if you want to turn that on, it'll actually turn on the fog lamp. So if I press it here, it'll actually animate with illumination and so forth, whatnot. Here, that is to control your mirror. And to control your mirror, you want to be using this. So if I keep this at the left-hand side, and if I click and if I adjust it here, you can see that the mirror adjusts exactly how I want it to be, up and down. And then of course, you can also switch it to the right side and vice versa. You can click that there, vice versa. And then of course, you can actually press this to fold both. They fold in, so in case if you want to take this to a car wash, and you can also unfold the back. Pretty neato. All right, now if we click in the steering wheel right here, you can actually, again, back to these controls, you can actually adjust your steering wheel. So if we were to adjust the steering wheel, if we wanted to move it up, move it down, push in or push out, it's actually really nice. And also too, if it's too cold outside and the steering wheel is too cold, you can actually press that on for heat. Now if we click here, that is our heads-up display, a very useful feature of the heads-up display. So it gives you like, basically this is what the heads-up display is going to show you. So you can actually change the color of the heads-up display. I just leave it at white. Don't bother changing it to a green or cyan. It's just not good. And again, here you can actually adjust the brightness of the heads-up display. So if it's too bright at night, you can obviously adjust it back and so forth. And in the content, you can also always have your navigation or the drive aids. And also what's really cool here, well, first of all, you can actually turn it on if you don't want the heads-up display, but I recommend keeping it on. You can adjust the positioning of the heads-up display. And then last but not least, this is the controls for your sunroof. So you can actually press here just for the little vent. So that opens up. The shade opens up a little bit and you get a little bit of venting. Now, if you want to open up the shade, all you got to do is drag this down to like either to the middle or to all the way to the back. Or if you want, you can also open up the sunroof as well. Just drag that down. The sunroof opens. You could actually open those two fully, but at the end of the day, if you want to just have it off, have some shade, you just there's a simple button that just says close both. All right, coming around with the UI, we have this. We have the Vinfast car icon right here. So if you press it, you have your quick controls, your electronic stability control. If you want to have that on, if you want not, and then the ambient light brightness. By the way, I love the ambient brightness. The ambient lighting on this car is actually fantastic. Display brightness, so you can actually adjust the display of your your screen. This gets really bright at night, and the only thing I do wish this has is automatic brightness control. So if it's at dark, it'll dim. If it's bright outside like it is right now, it'll keep it bright, but it doesn't. Also, there's the button that says reduce chime mode. I'm not sure what that means. Percocet's chime, and then wireless charging for your wireless charging pad right there. And then there is the GPS monitoring if you want to keep that off. I think it's actually off because of my guest mode. And then check this out. These are some of the features I wish the Mach-E actually has. The pet mode. Again, that's taken off of the Tesla Playbook. Camp mode, which is pretty cool. So like you can actually turn off the battery of the vehicle, but then have the infotainment on. So that way you can, I don't know, have the radio on. I'm not sure if there's a way you can actually watch movies or something, but there is actually video games in here. Well, I'll show you guys in a second. And of course, the valet mode. So you can prevent the valet from like ripping this car and crashing it, of course. Now we go back to the drive mode. This will be really interesting. So the drive mode, again, the basic features, you have your eco, normal, and sport. Normal and sport, not much of a difference. Really this just gets up really fast, and that's about it. Like it just like punches a little bit faster, a little bit more aggressive, but then it doesn't really go all that great, to be honest. Now here's the two features that I despise the most. Creep mode. So vehicle creeps forward when the brake pedal is released. Well, no, duh. Creep mode, so if you turn this off, you think that's actually going to auto hold for you. It won't. It won't move the vehicle forward, but it will also roll the vehicle forward or back if you're like in an uphill or downhill, which I think is just bonkers. And then of course, here's your regenerative braking. Now the regenerative braking, this is actually interesting. So both high and low, there isn't that much regen. However, it's always defaulted to high. And so when you have it defaulted to high, you're gonna probably mimic it as if you're gonna be driving it as a one pedal drive. But be aware that if you do end up using the high regen and pretending to drive it as like a one pedal drive, your back tail lights are not gonna turn on and you might get rear-ended. That's just a safety concern. That's just something to kind of point that out there. So what I do is I just normally turn both of them off. Now we go back to here, we have your camera, which is pretty cool. However, the camera is dating back from the Motorola Razr days, but I do like how you can have a camera view from your left side in case something happens, your right side here, your reverse light too, and also this has a mode for your trailer as well, which who knows, I don't know. So, and also you have your 360. I forgot you can have your 360. This is really neat. So the graphics looks like something out of the like a 2008 PC graphics game. But I think this is actually pretty neat. So in case if there's like a obstruction as you're parking, at least you have that feature. And of course your overhead display, which I think is pretty neat. So no complaints there. I actually do like the camera options, although I just wish the camera quality itself would look better. Your climate controls. So, first of all, if you press the middle here with the fan, it opens up the main climate controls. I'm going to give you a little tour here. So, the climate controls, you can actually swipe it to the left or to the right, and I'll show you guys in a second. Obviously, you have your auto controls, AC, max AC, your vents, ion, I have no idea what that is. Sync, I have no idea what that is. And of course, you can control where your air is going to be flowing. You can flowing and whatnot. So, I'm going to turn that off. I just want the air coming straight from the vent. And then of course you can adjust your fan speed, or it's just set to auto, which I will, but not right now because I'm filming. And if you swipe to the right, this is actually the controls for your heat and your cool ventilated seats. I do like this a lot because first of all, I can adjust the cool seats for myself as highlighted here. Ooh, maybe I'll just send it to like maybe 2. But not only the driver's side and the passenger side, but also the rear passenger row both have heat and ventilated options, which I think is pretty cool. Of course, that went down. So in case like if you wanted to adjust your temperatures, you can always press down, press up, and so forth. But I've actually learned this trick from Out of Spec podcast with Francie. If you actually hold it down and swipe it left to the right, it's like a dial. It's a little too sensitive, but it's like a dial, which I think is pretty neat. So if you need a quick fix. And now, same thing with the fan. Go to 0, it'll turn off the climate control. I'll just leave that at 2. Cool. And of course, there's a shortcut for your heat or your heat or your cool seats. All right, so the app. Let's check out the app, because this is again, this is why I think this is like a tablet coming out of the 2011. So your tablets have your recent rows right here. So you have your phone mirroring, your media, which is your radio, and then you have your vehicle information like your drive aids, EV. In fact, we'll press EV. We've been there before, so we're actually okay. Let's go back here. And then of course you have your service settings. We're gonna move into settings real quick, because here's your settings has your typical stuff. You know, if you click here, you can adjust. You can change your wallpaper if you like. Your sound settings, your Wi-Fi, your vehicle settings for like your seats, side mirrors, doors, and wipers, wireless charging, your typical stuff. And of course, your light settings. You can adjust the interior, your exterior. You know, for your high beams, you want automatic high beams, vehicle lights and whatnot. And of course, this is where you want to adjust your ambient lighting. I have my ambient lighting adjusted to more like in the pink side and so forth. And then you could actually change the effect, like if you wanted to like blink, wave, Morse, or whatever. Let's go back to the apps here. So your vehicle, obviously driver aids, we're gonna get to that in a second. And of course you have others, which is like, you know, your mobile type of games like Asphalt 9. I actually do like Asphalt 9. Let's skip all that. I'm gonna click in the drive aids, because this is actually quite interesting. So your driving assistance here, you have your speed, traffic sign recognition. So like you can have this on, it will, and you can see that just kind of went up and lit. So it will read the speed limit sign as you're driving. It's not the most accurate versus the Mach-E, so that's why I just kind of turned that off. And of course it'll ask me, are you sure you want to turn off the sign recognition? And I said yes. And of course there's your speed limit warning, your intelligent speed adaptation, adjust vehicle speed to match posted and detected speed limit. So if you want to, you know, just really play it safe, you could if you want. Also, you can actually click on each of these to for like a video demonstration. Now the lane. Now this is what drives me nuts. I always wanted to keep this off, turn it off, but every time I come back into the vehicle, every time I turn back on the vehicle after, you know, having it off for quite some time, this automatically goes back on to the emergency lane keeping. In my opinion, this is probably not the greatest lane assist, because it's pretty aggressive. It's pretty aggressive to say the least. But you have your highway assist. It shows the different kinds of controls, your highway assist and your adaptive cruise control. There's videos that demonstrate to you exactly what those work. And of course, here's your camera. Auto display automatically activates the 360 surrounding view monitoring system when the vehicle's speed is below 9 miles an hour and turn signal indicator is turned on. So I think like for the turning indicator might be helpful, but if you're driving below 9 miles an hour and all of a sudden your 360 camera turns on, I would feel pretty annoyed by that. Here's your collision avoidance for collision, sensitivity, automatic emergency braking, blind spot detection, door open warning, which is pretty cool. They have a lot of nitpick features and so forth. Driver monitoring system monitors driver behavior or warrants audibility and visually if drowsiness or inattention is detected. I actually like this for when you're going on a cross-country road trip. All right, so what I mean by that is that you know, I did a couple demonstrations, and I will show you what in the steering wheel what these where the radars are at. But I did a demonstration where, you know, if I'm looking away from the phone, looking away from the road, the car will alert me to pay attention. Now, if I'm dozing off like this, it'll actually give me an indication if I'm tired, feeling tired, take a break. So I think those features are actually quite nice, because you guys know me. I went cross-country road trip from LA to Chicago and vice versa. I usually like to drive late at night from like 10 o'clock to like 3 a.m. because there's not that many people driving out there. I'm actually quite thirsty, to be honest. So I thought that's actually a really nice feature, just to kind of point that out. And then the radars, if you guys are curious, the radars are here, that little thing right there, and there. Now back to the UI, you have your parking assistance and smart parking assists. I usually just ignore that stuff and whatnot. And of course, here's your timing right here. General settings, you can change your language, date and time, unit. So in case if you want to go to metric. And then of course, here's your phone information and then your profile right there.
So the one thing I do want to note too about this screen, it tends to fingerprint a lot. A couple fingerprints there. I was kind of wiping it off, but also, I'm not sure if you guys can actually see it on the screen, but there's plenty of scratches. You can see that focus on there. There's plenty of scratches on this screen. To solve that, shameless plug, get your screen protector, and also, like, if you want to protect your screen from glare and from scratches, don't forget to get your screen protector from Screen Protect. Use the affiliate code down under the description down below to save 15% off if you want to get a screen protector for your Vinfast VF8. Alright, so now we're in the Vinfast, and I'm gonna kind of demonstrate you guys, you know, what it's like to drive in this thing. There's a couple things we're gonna do. We're gonna drive on a highway, and we're also going to drive on the street as like a daily driver, and then also a little bonus ride for you guys. We're actually at the Angeles Crest Highway. Parts of it is actually closed, but to our destination point, to the Mountain View, that's still open, so that's going to be our end point, and then we're going to head back down. Now, I'm not going to speed through here. I've already saw 3 CHPs on my way here, so looks like they're pretty active today. So we're going to keep it on. We're going to keep it on the speed limit, a very reasonable speed. But the reason for the Angeles Crest Highway is because if you guys have not know what the Angeles Crest Highway is basically the California Highway 2 that goes through the mountains all the way to the other side. It's pretty famous by a lot of YouTubers and car enthusiasts to be driving this road. So we wanted to see how the Vinfast actually performs on the mountain winding road. We're gonna end up switching it to sport to see how it's like, and then take it from there. So we're gonna switch to the GoPro and have a good view. So we're now in the Vinfast. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to switch to the driving mode to sport, and then we'll see how much battery I actually have on the Vinfast. Not the Vinfast, but on the GoPro here, because I forgot to charge it up. So anyways, we're still trying to get to the vantage point here, and it's about 10 minutes from here. 10 kilometers, 10 minutes, and I'm just waiting for the traffic to clear up, and then we're going to gun it. All right, after this van, we are good to go, and let's go. So again, this is sport mode. So the sport mode, I know some people say there's no difference between the regular mode and the sport mode. I think when it comes to the handling, there's really not much of a difference. I think the sport mode, really, it's just a bit tighter control, just a tad tighter control on the on the steering wheel. There's definitely more pickup. This is what I think about the regular mode and the standard mode and the sport mode. I think the sport mode allows the full power input, but it really doesn't do anything to really elevate the power of the Vinfast. Now, the Vinfast isn't meant to be a fast or sporty car. The Vinfast is really meant to be like your everyday driver, your practical vehicle when you want to just, have like a normal vehicle to have in your garage for your family or for commuting, just have that SUV comfort. So that's what I believe what the Vinfast VF8 is. Now, this is the VF8 Plus, so it's gonna have all the bells and whistles, including the sunroof that I actually have open, because I love sunroof. But I think like having the sport mode, again, it's just the steering wheel is just a little bit tighter, a little bit refined than the regular mode, and of course the sport mode has a little bit of that pickup. Now, even in the sport mode, when you hit the accelerator pedal, there's still like a second and a half delay before the vehicle actually does take off. So when I was taking off from the parking lot, it didn't take off as fast as the Mach-E, even like in a Mach-E Premium. But how does it fare when you're commuting like in a winding road like the Angeles Forest Crest, Crest Forest, or whatever you call it, or the Angeles Forest Crest? So, I mean, the views here is just beautiful. It's just phenomenal. Of course, I got to keep an eye on my road here. I turned off the lane assist because I know the lane assist was going to give me a lot of trouble. But I mean, so far it's handling okay. You know, for a vehicle this size that doesn't really have like sporty suspension or anything like that. It's also pretty heavy vehicle at 5,700 pounds. The suspension is not terrible. It is a little floaty, and it's not terrible. Now, if you're not ripping through the mountains, I mean, this handles okay. So if I were to just turn gently, not speed so much, like that, I mean, it feels normal. Now, I could speed this up real quick. Yeah, see, it's got that pickup, but I would not recommend ripping through the mountains because even though this is all-wheel drive, it just doesn't have good sporty suspension because, again, this vehicle is a little large. It's just like, it's honestly driving like a Nissan Rogue. Laggy acceleration. When I say laggy, I mean that, you know, it's supposed to have that instant torque. Well, it does have that instant torque. It just takes a second and a half to respond. And, you know, that's honestly bad. You know, if you have to respond immediately in an emergency, or like, you know, if your vehicle rolls back and you need to be accelerating and it doesn't accelerate forward, you're about to hit somebody behind you, I mean, that's quite bad. So that's what I'm saying, like the driving functionality in this is terrible. I mean, for me, it's unacceptable. But then again, you know, you have to kind of give VinFast a little bit of a break because, you know, this is their first entry in the US market. But if they've been making vehicles since 2017, I think they could have done a little bit better. I mean, it's not a terrible car. I mean, okay, overall, it's not a terrible car. The driving functionality is a little terrible, in my opinion. Also, too, when I was doing a 180 degrees turn, the turning radius on this thing, when I was doing a U-turn, when I was doing a U-turn with the VinFast, the turning radius, not the greatest. I mean, it's kind of bad. We're about to do a test drive, engaging, you know, what the vehicle is all about and so forth. So I wanted to kind of like demonstrate to you what is it like to be in the VinFast as a daily driver. Because, like, again, the VinFast is not about, the VinFast wasn't meant to be a sports car or meant to be a fast car. It meant to be your everyday driver in a SUV. I guess they call this a crossover. I personally don't see this as a crossover. I actually personally see this as the same size as the Ford Escape, so to speak. So to begin the drive, you just hold on to the brake pedal. Now your parking brakes are actually down here, so, which I think is pretty silly, a little inconvenient. And then we're going to reverse by pressing the R button here. Press it in pretty firmly too, and just wait for the camera to kick in. The camera resolution is a joke, by the way. I mean, the camera was good. See, there's a warning. I'm just waiting for the vehicles to pass by. There's another vehicle coming by. So, I mean, if this was 2011, then this would be like, oh yeah, this is a good camera. But we're in 2024 now, and there we go. Now, you want to go a little gentle on the gear shifting because the other day it wasn't as responsive as I wanted for it to be. So I'm just going 25 miles an hour, and right now when I turned on the car, I realized that the settings that I had went back to default. So So the lane keeping assist is back on. The regenerative braking is back to high. The creep mode is also on as well, which I really despise the creep mode, to be honest. So we're gonna turn this way because I have a destination to go to. We're heading towards to La Jolla, where I'm gonna be doing some more filming. For someone that wants that instant torque out of an electric vehicle, this doesn't really service it. So I'm gonna hit the accelerator now. See, it takes a second. Maybe a second and a half. I mean, like, going over some of these bumps on the road doesn't feel terrible. It feels, for me, it feels normal. It does feel overall a little floaty. The vehicle itself is, you know, relatively large, you know, larger than the Ford Mustang Mach-E. But it kind of has a little bit of that. It has a very similar size to the Ford Escape. All right, so now we're about to leave Carlsbad. We're about to jump into the 5 freeway. So it's gonna flick my turning signal here, and we'll do a little bit of a takeoff from here at 30 miles an hour. Go. So again, there's that second and a half delay as you punch it. Like, not even just punching it, it's really just like, you know, hitting the accelerator pedal. It takes like a second and a half, and that kind of drives me nuts, to be honest. Oh, here's the other thing too. This must be a glitch, but like basically, like when you want to use your turning signal to switch lanes, for some reason switching, trying to turn on your left turning signal for when you want to switch lanes doesn't seem to be working at least half the time. That drives me insane. So I'm gonna try this again. I'm holding it down on the stalk and it's not working. Now we're actually coming up to a traffic stop. The Vinfast has a low regen and a high regen. So there's no 1, 2, 3 level of regen. So if you decide to use the high regen and kind of mimic it as like a one pedal drive, well, guess what? It's not going to apply the brake lights in the back. I cannot tell you how many times people nearly slammed their brakes behind me because my brake lights wasn't turning on. Here's what I'm gonna do, because I love a high regen when it works efficiently. And on the Vinfast, unfortunately it doesn't, so I'm going to turn off the creep mode and turn off and lower the regenerative braking, and it now use this as like a normal daily driver, like with your accelerator and then using the brake pad. I wanted to demonstrate to you guys, we're in stop and go traffic, just demonstrate to you guys the quietness out of the cabin. It sounds pretty standard, but it sounds quiet enough, actually. It sounds pretty good. So just take a moment to listen inside the cabin. Okay, so now we are moving at about 62 miles an hour, making sure I don't pass the CHP officer. Well, actually, he just got off. But have a listen in the inside cabin as we're now moving forward on the 5 freeway, and just listen into the cabin noise to see how noisy or how quiet you may think it is. And actually, to me personally, it doesn't sound terrible. Okay, so you've heard the cabin, and it sounds pretty decent. It's not very noisy. It's not the quietest. The quietest has been Mercedes vehicles for the longest time. When I test drove the EQS, it was so quiet my ears were stuffing. So at least there's no stuffiness coming out from the Vinfast. Now I want to talk about the lane assist here, because they get a bad rap when it comes to the lane assist. You know, sometimes you have to avoid certain things in the element of the road. Like for example, when you're driving in the California freeway, sometimes there's going to be stuff on the road you have to swerve to avoid and everything. Now, say for example, and you know, without turning signal, this thing will actually put you in check. Like say for example, I'm gonna try to swerve towards to the HOV lane, right? Here we go. You see that? The vehicle puts me back in check with my current lane. Unless I turn on my turning signal, this thing will keep you in check on the lane. Your steering wheel will actually vibrate, so to nudge you, to let you know, like, hey, like, you know, your vehicle was swerving off the lane. Also, too, I've noticed this too, a really cool feature. So this is what I'm gonna do. If I'm dozing off, more than likely this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna take off my glasses, take off my hat. Now, if I'm driving and I'm starting to doze off, like this. So now it tells me right here. It says with a nice little coffee cup there. It says, "Feeling tired? Time for a break." If you do it 3 times, it gives you like a hard warning, like, "Hey, you're actually tired. You need to take a break." So that's a cool safety feature that I wish most automakers would have. Now, there's actually 2 ways of turning on adaptive cruise control. You can either do the regular way by turning on pressing the right button here, the one that looks like a odometer with the arrow pointing down. So you want to set your speed. Right now my speed is at 79, 78 miles per hour. And I press that, and right now it is engaged. Now when you engage it, the default setting for the distance between you and the vehicle is at the farthest, it's at the most separated space possible. So what I'm going to do is, actually I'm going to increase speed to 78. Now as I'm increasing speed, all my information is either going to be here or in your heads up display, and I'm going to be interchanging to the 5 freeway. Now again, I have the lane assist on right now, and I'm attempting to merge over to the right. I don't have my turning signal on, but because the lanes and the highways, it's a little nuts right now, I need to merge over. So now when I merge over, the car is allowing me to merge over, and it's not going to freak out on me. Like the steering wheel is not freaking out on me. So there we go. Now we're merging into the 5. And so what's happening here is the vehicle is trying to find the lane, which it has. So if I don't turn, it won't do anything. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So it will warn you in the heads-up display. The white line turns into red and say, "Hey, you're merging off. You're merging off, and you might want to get back to your lane." It's a good feature to have. But as a daily driver, if you're going through streets, surface roads, construction roads, for me, it's not really that helpful. What's going to be really helpful is to keep an eye on the road. That's what's going to be helpful. We're going to move on into the surface streets, like regular daily driving on the surface roads, on street roads, and demonstrate to you guys what it's like. As I'm braking, the brakes are a little softer too, but yeah. So now you join me back into Vinfast. We're gonna kind of demonstrate a little bit about your daily driving. Back in LA, by the way, so I have a few hours to, I have a couple hours before I had to drop off the Vinfast to his owner. And I'm driving around, if you guys can't tell, little Easter egg around this area. So I figured I kind of drive around in this area a little bit, just to do a couple of quick errands before I have to leave. And so I also wanted to demonstrate to you guys, what is it like driving around in this thing as a daily driver? Well, here's the thing. So, in a city like Los Angeles, when it's going to be like hills going uphill and downhill and everything, you know, and especially with tech these days, especially with EV tech, you know, there's going to be tech where, you know, the vehicle is it's gonna like hold you in if you're going uphill or downhill. This VinFast is a lottery. Sometimes they will do it, sometimes they don't. So my guess is if you don't hold on, if you don't press down on the brakes hard enough, like I am right now, it will probably roll back. Like if I'm going up in an uphill, it's probably gonna roll back, and then when it's time to accelerate, you have that 1 second delay, right? For me, that is a problem. You know, like when I have my Mach-E, I tap, 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 it goes. You know, it's just a nice little nudge of acceleration. I'm gonna tap the accelerator on here right now. Not really moving much at all until a second and a half later. Now here's another thing I want to talk about too. The turning signal stalk. So the turning signal stalk is really hard to press down and to press up. And it serves this purpose to have that little neat feature. Also, that's the other thing too with the turning signal, is that it won't disengage until you are straight, until you are going straight. So I'm going to demonstrate to you this again. So I'm gonna turn to the right here. See how much how much strength I have to like press up. Turning. Doesn't disengage. It's not disengaging because I haven't gone straight enough. There we go. So see, for me that has been a problem. I mean, not exactly necessarily a problem, but it's like, you know, if I am gonna use a turning signal, sometimes when you are turning into the street and it curves a little bit, it should disengage like any other automaker, but it doesn't. Also, so I'm kind of going uphill a little bit. I'm going to turn to the right here. Again, you just have to like really push it up or press it down. It's just a little excessive. See, I'm trying to press the accelerator to go up. See how it's kind of rolling back? Trying to go again, rolling back. So, and that's not using the brake pedal. If I were to use the brake pedal, you know, you can use the brake pedal. See how it's not, there we go. So that took a while to disengage with the turning signal. And also the brakes too. The brakes, I think like when you're braking in a city environment, the brakes are okay at best. My grade on the braking is D. But really, like the braking is just awful. It's really soft, and I'm just afraid of like slamming on the brakes and everything. By the way, I'm gonna take off real quick. I'm gonna stop here and the press accelerator. 1, 2, 3, and go. So that took a bit, and actually that's just on standard mode. I'm gonna switch to the see, I'm slamming on the brakes right now and it was so soft. So that was a normal mode. Eco mode, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be really slow, although if you want to demonstrate that, we're going to demonstrate that for the eco mode. How fast does it take off in eco mode? Slamming. Okay, so interesting with that. The initial, so obviously it takes a second and a half for it to take off, and it gave me that instant torque. It gave me like that little bit of a jump boost. Very little difference from the normal mode. However, I think after 35-40 miles an hour, as I was looking into in the speedometer, it starts to thermal limitation. It starts to thermal limit my acceleration. We're gonna put it into sport, and we're gonna do a takeoff. See how it reacts. All right, and go. So yeah, I mean, 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. It gave me that. Oh, and the braking's terrible. the braking's terrible. It's a little spongy, and it's just like, you know what it feels like? I'm pressing the accelerator, the braking pedal, and it goes like, It doesn't go like, it goes like, right? So, having into the sport mode, I don't think there's anything too sporty about it. However, what I believe is sport mode is just giving the full power potential on your battery pack and the power to accelerate and so forth. So if you really want to get that oomph, you could. Just keep in mind is that, you know, when you put down on the accelerator pedal, it takes like a second and a half. Oh my God. And here's the thing too. When it's also really twitchy too, like in the sport mode. Like obviously it takes a second and a half for the acceleration to respond from the accelerator pedal. But when you press it, it's really strong initially. And that's where it gets nauseous. So unless you are on the freeway going high speeds, I do not recommend having it in sport mode. Leave it in normal mode or even in eco mode for that matter. So that way you'll feel a little less sick. So, I mean, that's my take. Driving around, if you get used to the driving dynamics of the vehicle, you know, by all means go for it. If VinFast can fix these issues via software updates, then I think it would definitely be a good choice by then. But until then, there is better options in the EV market. So I'm doing a quick charge right now with the VinFast on our way to Long Beach. It's gonna cut really short. I'm probably gonna arrive at like 1 or 2% state of charge, but just to play it safe, because I'm like about 25 minutes away from Long Beach. And so, you know, the previous session for the charging has been, you know, from the previous point, I think the amp was actually limited from the previous station. This looks a little more legit. However, what I'm noticing here is that the kilowatts are going a little bonkers. It dipped down to like 120, now it's shooting up to 145. Those numbers actually doesn't look that bad, honestly, to be honest, which looks pretty good. But I think like just the vehicle trying to accept the charge is a little inconsistent. Yes, and again, dipped down to 126. I think it's just part of the charging curve. So I'm gonna do a 10% and 80% state of charge test with an EVgo station, just so I could show you guys the charging curve graph, because the last time I saw it, it was a little bizarre. Like it dipped down to 120, 118, now it's shooting back up to 126. So that's what I'm kind of explaining here with you guys. But the VinFast, yeah, you're quirky. Yeah, you're definitely something else. That's for sure.
All right, so I originally wanted to do a 10% to 80% state of charge. So I decided to, but we're gonna go ahead and start at 3% state of charge with 7.8 miles left in the expected range. And this is actually a pretty cool feature too. I kind of wish more vehicles kind of show this, but basically this is the temperature of your battery pack, 80.6 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think you can change it to Celsius there, maybe in the settings there or whatever. But I think that's actually a very interesting information. For me personally, that's actually pretty useful information, because the colder the battery pack, the slower charge it will be, and the hotter it is, vice versa, and so forth. But for like 80 degrees is actually a pretty good temperature. We are here at the EVgo charging station, so we're gonna go ahead and charge up. And we're gonna do our 3% to 80% state of charge test and see how this performs. All right, now we are officially starting at I guess now at this point, 2% state of charge. And looks like the numbers are ramping up. We're at 88, 92, 96, 101, 104, 109, 113, 117. It is slowly crawling up right now. And again, we're pretty deep into the battery pack right now. It's at 137. I'm assuming at this point it'll probably go a little bit higher. And again, because the lower the battery pack you are, the less it'll probably start. But as we're getting closer to 10, 15, 20%, you'll probably see like you'll see that the kilowatts kind of go a little bit higher. So let's have a look at the stats here. Again, this is why I like using EVgo. Sorry if it's a little dark there. I'm using the Pro settings here on my Samsung, but we're looking at here. The volts is at 402, 401, 402, max of 950. The amp is at 345, and we're still climbing up. Right now, the kilowatts at 139, and yeah, it's looking pretty good so far. So this is going to be a pretty good test to see how long it'll actually charge to. From 3% to, or I guess in this case, 2% to the 80%. But in other words, let's just imagine, we're going to start off at 10% at 80% state of charge. We're going to see how the charging curve is going. We'll see if there's going to be any faults as far as like charging wise is concerned. And then also, we're going to see if I'm going to get an error through the Vinfast if it's saying that the battery is too hot and I need to safely stop. I'm not sure if it's like that's an error or if that's something that mechanically needs to be addressed. But we're gonna stick around here. Look, we're already at 7% state of charge, which I think is fantastic. Let's go to home. Right now, look at that. Look at that. We're climbing up to 140 kilowatts. Volts at 406. Amps at 345. I mean, this is probably going to be a pretty good session. All right, now keep this in mind that if you're heading to a charging station and that is fully operational and your battery is warm enough, because we've already seen how warm the battery is at 80.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That's basically right around the optimal temperature for a good, successful fast charging session. Now again, you want to go to an EVgo here and you want to make sure that the charging station that you're at is going to be fully working, fully functioning, and also make sure there's no one else using a charging station, because I believe these are actually shared. So if somebody else were to park here, you're more than likely going to be sharing the power. So that's why I'm doing this a little bit later at night. Not only that, the charging rate, the charging price goes a little lower, although the cheapest rate is actually after midnight, but right now it is actually 10 p.m. here in Oceanside. And so far we're having a good session. Right now, we're still at 141 kilowatts, volts at 410, amps it's at 344. We're already up to 13% state of charge from 2%. We've only been here for about close to 5 minutes. So I believe this is going to be a very good charging session. But like I said, in the app, they do show the charging curve chart, what do they call it? Like the charging curve chart, the graph. There we go. That's the word, the graph. And it's very interesting from the last time I've seen it. So I got to show you guys exactly what's going on. Anyways, I have food. I'm going to go eat real quick, and then we'll report back around 25%, 50%, 75%, and then on to 80% state of charge.
All right, so we're at 20% state of charge. I figure I'd report you guys this right now so basically this is the remaining time to charge up to 100%. Now the good feature about this is that you could set your charging limit to like 80, 90, or 100%. Right now it's set to fast charging to 100%. So that's the amount of time it requires to charge to 100%. We're already on 21% of the battery. We got about 55 miles or 56 miles left in the expected range. Now the temperature is actually climbing up pretty fast at 91.4% temperature, and this is the indicator I'm getting right now. EV battery overheating. Stop vehicle safely. Now obviously I'm charging right now. I'm obviously charging my vehicle right now, and actually you can't really see, but there is a Mach-E just pulled in right now. But I'm stopped. I'm charging my vehicle right now. EV battery overheating. I mean, I think these temperatures are actually normal for when you're DC fast charging. Although I would imagine that VinFast should be implementing some sort of a coolant as we're fast charging. So this is kind of concerning. But I've also read on Reddit that this is a common problem. So hopefully VinFast will have a chance to address this. And of course, if you guys are fans of Audit Spec Studios, you'll know Francie has leased a Vinfast, and she also got the same indicator as well. So again, we'll be DC fast charging to 80% and get you guys the final results. We're already up to 24% of the battery. It's moving along pretty well, pretty fast actually.
All right, so we're now at 50% state of charge, and we are pulling in 81 kilowatts, bouncing between 80 and 81, and our volts remain at 421, and our amps is down to 191, 192, bouncing between 80 and 81 kilowatts. We've been charging here for the last 25 minutes, and we already pulled in 42.1 kilowatt hour back into the battery. So far this has been a pretty good session, minus the issue, the glitch we've been getting, where the car is telling us that the battery is too hot. Stop safely now, because obviously we are actually parked charging right now. So we'll report back about 60-70% state of charge. All right, we're at 65% state of charge, and it says starting 2%, which is pretty awesome to see. And we have elapsed at 35 minutes so far, delivering 56.6 kilowatt hour back into the battery, and we are still hovering between 86 and 85 kilowatts. Let's have a look at the session details here. So the volts are still at 440, and the amp is down at 194, 195. And so this section is actually doing pretty good for what it is for the Vinfast here. But we will report back once we reach down to 80% and get you guys the final results and my overall thoughts on the charging session here. All right, so we have reached to the tail end of our charging session. We actually gone a little bit beyond 80%. We're at 83% state of charge. Our volt is at 460, our amp is at down to 149, and our kilowatt is actually down to 68. Those are actually pretty good stats if you think about it. And we've been here for 50 minutes, down from 2% state of charge, and we have delivered 74.2 kilowatt hour back into the battery pack. But let's go ahead and stop the charging session here, and let's get back. A little hard to unlatch this. There we go. All right, so we've got our final results here, and let's have a look at the charging curve graph provided by EVgo app. And the results are actually quite interesting. But I will say, at the end of the day, when the Vinfast has a toasty battery, when the charging station is fully operational and you're not sharing power, these are the best results you can actually get when you're DC fast charging your Vinfast. However, with that indicator in the dash saying that the battery is overheated, stop safely now, that kind of frightens me, even as a consumer. That kind of frightens me. So if you have home charging, by all means, definitely take advantage of the home charging. DC fast charge only when you need to. But if you have no other choice but to DC fast charge, just be aware of what you're going to be encountering when you're driving the Vinfast. So that being said, I hope Vinfast will have a chance to fix this problem, have a solution. Otherwise, it's going to scare a lot of consumers, even if you're leasing for $250 a month.
So I had another charging session, and this is the issue I was getting. I was getting the 12-volt battery charging fault, and even worse, cooling system fault, service required. So that's a very scary situation, as I've been doing DC fast charging a lot with the Vinfast. But luckily, after restarting the vehicle, all those indicators went away.
So here's another troubling thing to mention about the Vinfast. So I think there's like a bit of a miscommunication with not all chargers. I mean, granted, like the EVgo chargers, the EVgo chargers and the Electrify America chargers, they work just fine because those are like the two big EV charging companies. But then you have something like the Power Up Pasadena charging station. I'm at the Arroyo charging depot in Pasadena, right next to the train line right there, metro line. So I had a problem with the miscommunication here. So basically, like normally what you do is, as the train's passing by, hello there, what I initially done was like plug it in first, then activate it with the app. Instead, what had to be done is I actually had to activate with the app first, get it charging first, then plug it in, then there's the communication. So something to be aware of if you're charging your Vinfast with a different provider other than EVgo, Electrify America, maybe even charge point. That's something to just be aware of. So just troubleshoot everything. If you plug it in first and try to activate it, if it's not working, do the other way. Activate it first, then plug it in and see if that works. If not, try a different cable, try a different charging station. You never know. Now, what's good about the Vinfast? Well, there's actually some good stuff about the Vinfast. First of all, the design is actually not bad. It's actually, I wouldn't say it's attractive, but it's also not ugly either. They don't try to be really innovative. They just want to be normally elegant. I think that's just my opinion. Another couple good things about the Vinfast again, I actually like the steering wheel. It's a very practical, very ordinary, but also not very cheap looking steering wheel. Again, I refer to it as like the Nissan Rogue steering wheel. Then you also have your massive 15-point-inch screen, although it does kind of scratch up in the UI. Can use some work, but the fact you have a 15-point-inch screen, that's actually pretty awesome. Next awesome display is actually the heads-up display. Since there's no instrument cluster in front of the steering wheel, you do have your heads-up display. It's actually pretty dominant when it's really sunny outside, and of course, especially when it's at night. Now, if it gets too bright at night, you can always adjust that. You can always adjust the brightness of your heads-up display. Another cool feature that I actually do like about this is that you have your USB-C and rated at 90 watts. That's actually pretty good. And then you also have your back seats. They do recline a little bit. At least they recline, but they do recline. And also another cool feature, both rows are gonna have heated and cool ventilated features. Both rows of the seats are heated and ventilated. And the best part about the Vinfast VF8 is the leasing option. You can lease this for $249 a month for 36 months, 0 down, although there are probably going to be some discrepancies as you guys head over to the dealership and just talk further about it. But that is what is advertised. And I think that's actually pretty awesome. And also the warranty too. The warranty, 10 years for 125,000 miles. That's actually pretty good. I think that's how Hyundai started off their business too, with an amazing warranty for the vehicle. Now let's talk about the long list of bad things about the Vinfast. What's bad about the Vinfast? Terrible door handle, terrible cam quality, annoying beeps, settings reset, UI field dated from 2011, no one-pedal drive, acceleration delay, soft brakes, no holds and it rolls back or forward, no 12-volt outlet, middle hump, which is the transmission hump, seats and lumbar not very comfortable, and the positioning of the parking brakes. And on top of that, just a lot of concernings of all these beeps and all these glitches that is coming out from the 15.6 inch. And of course, like one of the bigger concerns really is like when you're charging and the battery gets too hot, it's telling you, hey, the battery's too hot, stop safely now. That kind of concerns me. Oh, also, I couldn't get this on camera, but when I was charging one time, I heard a loud bang underneath. It gave me like a really bad vibe. Anyways, we're going to talk about all the glitches and safety concerns with the VF8. Now here are my glitches and safety concerns of the VF8. Now I think that when it comes to safety concerns is the when you have the high regen activated as in the function and you're kind of using it as if it was a one pedal drive, guess what? That back tail light is not going to turn on. I could not tell you how many times people slammed on their brakes behind me because that back tail light wasn't working when I was using the high regen and using it as if it was a one pedal drive. That's why, like, when it comes to electric vehicles, have a one pedal drive is awesome. It's awesome, but this doesn't have it. So I've been using it as like a practical vehicle, like with the brakes and everything. No creep mode, low regen. And also another safety issue is the brakes are really soft. There's a couple times I had to slam on my brakes because people were going too fast, people were braking too hard. I'm trying to brake as fast as I could, as best as I could, and this thing is really soft. And then also the lane assist. First of all, turn that off. The lane assist is helpful, but at the same time, it's not helpful. And so if you're running into an issue where, like, you know, maybe there's like a piece of debris on the highway and you have to avoid it, and this thing decides to bring you right back in the lane, and then you hit that debris, guess what? You're toast. And another big safety concern too is, you know, there was that time I was fast charging, and then I got that the battery temperature warning, stop safely now. If I'm a consumer and I see that, that's a big concern. And also that banging that I heard, just like, actually heard it twice. It was like boom, underneath where the battery is at. That is another safety concern. And then of course, we're talking about the glitches. So a couple of glitches I ran into with the UI. First of all, the UI is slow. The UI reminds me of something out of 2011 of an HTC Android tablet. Sometimes I run into like warning glitches, something about the transmission not working, start safely now, and so forth. And so that's kind of those are kind of the glitches I kind of run into. So when I set my settings, you know, I have a guest profile, but when I set my settings and turn the vehicle off and come back in about, hour later, all my settings get reset. Back to the lane assist, back to the high regen, creep Milan. I wanted all that stuff off, and that's just, to me, that is a glitch that I hope that can get rectified or fixed later in the future for a software update. Also, too, when accelerating with the high regen or whatever, when accelerating sometimes is a little twitchy and kind of gives me it's a little nauseating, to be honest. And then also the shifting gear, when I'm shifting from park to neutral, or even like from reverse to drive, there was that one time where it lagged on me. Like for example, I'm reversing, right? And I want to go drive forward. When I hit the D button to go drive forward, sometimes it doesn't do it. And with me, without knowing, I hit the accelerator, all of a sudden I'm going backwards. Same thing, all of a sudden I'm going backwards. So I hope that's an issue that can be fixed. In my opinion, I think the computer hardware on this thing is bare bones, and you need more RAM, you need better processing power, because if this is a computer on wheels, you need to have some good computer power. And I'm a nerd too. I know all about computers too. My final thoughts on the Vinfast VF8. It is a nice looking car, good size, good suspension, very practical, has some nice features that I wish my Mustang Mach-E had, but it's overshadowed by ambitious, buggy, laggy UI software that looks like from the HTC Android tablet in 2011, with a camera that looks like from the Motorola Razr, the old school one, followed by a terrible driving experience that gives me anxiety on the road. However, if you were to look past all that and get used to driving, this would be a great option for $249 a month, 5.2 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. Stay smashing and stay classy, San Diego. Okay, let's stop if I can remember. Here are my final thoughts. Damn it, I can't remember. Final thoughts. It is a nice looking car. Fate. It is a nice looking car, good software. Camera quality that dates back to a Motorola Razr the old school one with, damn it. I mean, that's what did it. God damn it. Me and my ADHD.